cross. People see the cross as something terrible. It was terrible. It brings us into a place, Gethsemane, that it declares not my will. They were born to do a divine plan, that which unfolds concerning the people. We cross our hearts and we to do what you do. What do you do?
When we left the last time, I believe we alluded to the fact that after the 7 separations like Abraham went through, that once it was a separation from the ultimate, which was Isaac, that there must be a greater revelation. And today we want to sort of press on into explaining or bringing into view the greater revelation, and that is, in this context, making America great, because that is the vision of the Lord. So the vision of the Lord is that which God desires, and the truth is that there's, in other words, in this dynamic, the battle belongs to the Lord, because everything that's happening now is based on a time design feature of God Himself. And we talk about this new America, and this new America, we are making it great by vision and design. And always people ask the question about the vision. I know about the Constitution, but what about the vision? See, the vision was given by the angel of the Lord and can't be changed. So we approach this end time with the command strategy of dreams fulfilled. We recognize we are the change. We are the instruments that God will use, and He will raise up leaders and commanders to be able to execute His desire and lead them by the Spirit of God. Remember, we said that all commanders are leaders, but all leaders are not commanders, because there is a difference. And based on my experience in having the privilege to be in the enlisted commandant of a correctional custody facility, I realized that there was indeed a difference. The function is different and the operation is different, but it's focusing on the same type of mission. The function of a leader is mostly by demonstrated performance and by example saying, follow me. In other words, when we do that in the vernacular of the kingdom of God and those things where God lead, it says, follow me as I follow Christ. So that means you need to be aware of what to expect when you see a leader. And He says, I will show you the way. This quality is also found in a commander, but in a much greater way. When you start talking about a commander has within it leadership qualities. However, their function is more directing parts, people, and resources towards bringing together all the ingredients that is necessary to accomplish the mission. So that means a commander has to be calm. A commander has to be able to think. A commander may have to make decisions regardless of how big or small the purpose or the mission is. A commander must be a unique person. Not anybody can be a commander. Not anybody can be a leader, but everybody can play a part because everybody can serve. Having the gifted ability, this is a commander, having a gifted ability to multitask. That means do more than one thing at the same time. They're multi-talented, mean they're experts in many areas, and they have the capability are performing many things at once, even under pressure. And one of the reasons why it has to be proven under pressure, because if you're in combat, if you are in conflict, then the pressure is on, but a commander must remain calm, producing positive conclusions and the results necessary to accomplish the mission. A great commander, when you look at it, always focus on the present with a vision for the future, only gleaning from the past for possible improvements and gaining from the knowledge both the good and bad, but never repeating it. Because you're in a different day and you're in a different area. So whenever they begin to see that, you have to understand that even the climate of command relationships has changed, because the scenario of the place of function has changed. In my experience, it was in Vietnam, but in now other experiences, it was in Iraq. And now we're seeing that the experiences sometimes could even be on the streets. But we are the change. That means that we are the instrument that will bring this thing to pass, because we are living in a season of dream fulfillment. In other words, those things that God has designed and the things that we've been expecting, now we see being made manifest. They're being made known. So when we see that, I believe that we are the nation and the people that will recapture the vision of America. Notice I said the vision of America, and stand as one nation and pledge an allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands. Why? We are the change. So as the president of the United States of all the nations, see, this president is going to be one of all the nations of the world that was present at Pentecost, talking about the vision of the Lord. There was 120 there in the upper room, and there came power on them. And what you have to realize is 120 is the end of all flesh, which was saying or manifesting that this experience on Pentecost was the end of man's ability to bring God's purpose to pass. Because now the Holy Spirit itself is going to bring it to pass. So this new America was actually birthed out of that experience, and it literally birthed the ability for God to bring forth a science of the 21st century. Not the science of the external, not the science of the past, but a science that focused out of a relationship with God called biodynamics. And it really begins to function out of a knowledge and an understanding of the vision and a revelation of what God desires, and a peace in the heart that God is leading and leading by his Spirit, and understanding this, that God is doing is not by might nor by power, but by the Spirit of the living God, and God is doing it. The vision said this in the last part of the vision that the angel of the Lord gave to George Washington. It says in part, 3 great perils will come upon the republic, and the most fearful is the third. But in its greatest conflict, the whole world united shall not prevail against her. It says, let every child of the republic learn to live for his God, his country, and the union. The most important part is the union. With these words, vision vanished. Remember, George Washington was seeing a vision, and that was something that was coming into view. And he says, I startled at my seat, and I felt as if I had seen. wherein had been shown to me the birth, the progression, and the destiny of the United States, quoted George Washington. So when we see that, now we have to understand that he was thrust into the office by the purpose of God, by the hand of man, but God never changed the vision. So when you come into this understanding, you have to understand what is the purpose of the president. So the president official job title is Chief Executive Officer and the Commander in Chief. So when you begin to understand that, you understand that, but this is based out of how they function out of the vision. So you have to realize if a vision is set in place, the people can change, but the vision never does. The Constitution can be adjusted, but the vision never changes. Because God had a purpose for America. God had a purpose for every nation on the planet. So as the chief executive officer, he enforces the Constitution based on the vision taken out of what God has said. Traditionally, Traditionally, things were done different, but now because of the advancement of communication, there is a change in the way that information is given to the president. The president is flooded with information, flooded with communication, so there had to be a system whereby things are filtered so that he only gets the things that are necessary. You can see this biblically in Moses. You can see this biblically in Joshua, and knowing the difference that Moses was the lawgiver, he did it by force, but Joshua was a commander, and it was saying, meditate on this day and night and let it not depart out of your mouth. In other words, a commander actually moves and directs from the inward leading of God, not the law of the letter. Remember, the letter still killeth, but the spirit gives life. Any book that written, the book can actually be a dead letter unless you see the spirit behind it. So when you start talking about the president in its form, there are 5 levels of informational flow that goes to the sitting president. 5, we'll do it backwards, 5 to 1, and then we'll take it 1 back up. Number 5 is the average citizen. Everybody puts together what they want to get to the president. Number 4, the staff secretaries, those that work around to make sure that everything is decent and in order going to the president. 3rd, the president's personal secretary, that one which is close to him and keep up with his flow and operations and his appointments. 2, director of the Oval Office of Operation, and number 1, the Oval Office, the president's desk. So let's review it from 1 to 5. The Oval Office is the president's desk. In other words, those people that he talked to and invite into the office, and with those, information and communications are exchanged so that he get an insight from those that communicate with him directly. 2, director of the Oval Office operates located outside of the office in the back door. So what does that mean? That means the person on this job filter everything and every piece of paper that goes into the Oval Office. To watch and make notes of person entering and exiting that office, even the first spouse, they have an order so that making sure that nobody goes in unannounced or they don't belong. To screen all phone calls, to direct and most commonly used word for this person is no. Why? It's because only the essentials get past this person. Number 3 is the president's personal secretary, which is an aide and in the office of the president and handles his correspondence. Number 4, the staff secretaries, where they handle the mail to the president from his zip code, used by a personal friend, politics, and other important people that receive information that goes to the president, and then finally, the average citizen. One of the reasons why everything doesn't go to the average citizen is because most people won't understand everything that comes to the president. The average person, which is across America, who wants to communicate with the president, normally does it in a group setting, and it comes through a sports person. So look at the staff organization. Now, what is the staff organization's purpose? The staff organizational purpose is to assist the commander with accomplishing the mission. So they're sort of behind the scene, but they're making sure things happen. By permitting the body to focus its power on doing what it is assigned to do, it is to protect, to direct, and to sustain the desires of the commander. Now, the other thing is the staff organization operates to do several things. 1, respond immediately to the needs of the commander and his staff. In other words, if the president needs something, immediate concern. If the staff needs something, immediate concern. Why? It needs to be done quickly. 2, keep the commander informed of all situations. In other words, if it's important enough to actually affect the nation, then the president needs to know. 3, reduce time and control and integrate and coordinate operations. So there's something done by the people around them, which is really the hand and the feet of the eyes of the president. 5, relieve the commander of supervisory details of routine matters. The staff's function is out of an attitude of gratitude. In other words, and they present all things with excellence, because a good visionary wants to be able to trust when you hand it to me, it's an excellent, and I can say it because I know that you can be trusted, and I can trust your ability to communicate to me rightly. All staff must be able to read the visionary, and if they do not have a relationship with the visionary, they're going to disqualify themselves from leadership, because really they should be vented, and whenever they get the mission, he knows they will execute it. All vision, it must flow from the visionary, and here is the outline. The vision, what he sees, what he says, it says, follow me. The other is organization, how to arrange things in such a way that it brings people together. The implementation is putting it in practice after the organization and ensuring completion. Every task must be completed with excellence and efficient, because it needs to be in a way that it can be effectively communicated, because there has to be a command voice that's communicating it rightly, so that every branch understand their function and understand who the command is. Every branch of the military has its own command and orders and unit of assignment at different levels. So whenever people understand that different level, whether it's a Marine, Airman, whatever, every person must know and understand their chain of command. And who is it that is their commander-in-chief and their representative? So they not only need to know the commander, the president, but they also need to be thoroughly informed of who the representatives are. Receiving the representative is receiving the chief. That's like when Jesus says, I have sent you as the Father has sent me. So when you arrive, they know that you are representing me. Therefore, what I say, it emanates from you. Commanders, and what is a command? A command is the territory or the authority that's given to a commander to execute what he needs to execute for the purpose of a mission statement. So in the unit, there's three things. One, you have the commander. Two, you have the recipients of the command. And three, the action of the command, i.e., the commander, the one that has the voice. The recipient, the one that received the correspondent, and the action is the people that walks it out or execute it. Within the element, there must be an attitude of the command. Now, this is vitally important, and people sometimes will misunderstand this part. Because in this attitude, there must be a willingness to, one, be instructed with the command. Two, willing to change to benefit the command. It's not personal, it's purpose. Three, willing to be loyal and faithful to the command. And four, willing to endure within the command until the end of the required time and assignment. Within the command are given training requirements to establish and maintain standard of preparedness for the mission of the command, according to the mission statement. And then you have the command voice, which is primarily the enlisted, which actually are called the middlemen. They are the second in command, and they are really excited about being excellent as a second. In the command voice, you must have four factors to make those listen to know that you are in fact given a command. In other words, in a command voice, there's a voice control, the way you say it. There is distinction, the clarity in how you say it. The inflection, the emphasis on how you say it, and the cadence that is to be the process of 1, 2, 3, how it flows. Now, here's what General Omar Bradley said about leaders and about soldiers and about those in the military. He went on to say, and I quote, "The American soldier is a proud one, and he demands professional competence in his leaders. In battle, he wants to know that the job is going to be done right with no unnecessary casualties. The non-commissioned officer wears the chevrons and supposed to be the best soldier or best person in the platoon. And he or she is supposed to know how to perform all duties expected of them, because the American soldier expects his sergeant to be able to teach how to do his job and to teach them theirs. And he expects even more from his officers," end quote, General Omar Bradley. So when we bring this thing into an understanding that it is a unit functioning, that's why you have basic training where all come in is a basic soldier. The other is at the advanced training, they get expert training in what they are designed to do. And when they come into the unit, it comes all together, and then they do what is called corporate training, because they train up for the battle. There's a key to that. And the key to preventing failure, I'll do it in 3 phases. 1, every person needs to be proficient in their one job and having a good performance outcome of doing that. Very capable of doing other things, but focus on what they're expert at. 2, they must be physically fit because they need to be able to move with speed and agility. Having an excellent diet, making sure that you take care of the body, and exercise and program, because this is the house that the real person lives in, and out of this is going to bring forth what is necessary to accomplish their mission. And the third thing is you must understand how to get from point A to point B. Therefore, your map reading skills must be proficient at all levels because of the fear of becoming an instant leader. And it has happened many times that people understand that if you're prepared at any time, if you know how to be proficient, if you understand what's going on in the upper, if you understand the vision, if you understand the mission, if you understand your portion and the ones around you, then if you're thrust into a leadership position, you always are expected. Why? It's because we're coming into a day, we're coming into an hour that leadership has to be trained, because the impact could be great. The impact could be suddenly, because we're functioning in a new world order, and the way we do it, you could say we have not been this way before. So we're making America great. We have to do it with excellence. We have to do it with an understanding that this is a new day. We are functioning in a new way because the vision says, this is the day, you are the change, and that's the original vision of America. So we say in closing, we must be, we must see, and now is the time that we are in the place of agreement, and the place of agreement is the place of power. We are on the road to recovery of what? Recovery back to the original vision, and understanding that we're moving forward as an excellent ministry, as an excellent nation, and declaring that this is the way we go if we're making America great. And this is the time that we understand we are the change, we are the gift, we are the people, and now is the time.
About the glory of the cross. People see the cross as something terrible. It was terrible. I can't